Hi, I'm Lori and I'm an addict.
Hi.
Let's take a moment of silence so that my higher power could speak through me. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really nervous. I haven't done this in a little while, and but when I was asked, first of all, I was told that when I'm asked to do something, there's a reason for it, and to not say no. And when I heard the topic, I thought, wow, that's a hell of a good topic for me. And and I'm originally from California, and I got clean out there. And for the first 5 years of my recovery, I had the same sponsor. And she watched me go through a lot, and she worked with me, and I worked the steps with her. And she knew me from the start, so it was easy. And you know, I told her a lot of the past, and I shared a lot with her, and then I moved to another area, and when I moved to this other area, it was really, really difficult because I had to start all over again and let someone in, and that just wasn't easy for me. I was so used to somebody knowing me, and I had real trust issues, and you know, I didn't trust women at all. My sponsor had a sponsorship work group that we met several times a month, and we would sit and just talk, and these women knew me, and that was where I actually learned to trust, because when I was out there using, women stole from me, they stole my man, they used me. I never got close to any women at all. I was just so much more comfortable with men, because with men I could get whatever I wanted, and I knew how to play the game. And with women, I just didn't want any part of it, because I didn't know what it was about to let anyone in at all. I had a best friend, one friend growing up, and she's still in my life today, and she actually has the same name as me. And we were never, we knew each other, but I never really let her in, and I talked with her about that recently, and she said she never really knew me at all, but we were together a lot, and we're closer than ever now, but I just didn't know what that meant. I wasn't taught to let people in. My mother always told me not to air your dirty laundry in public. She taught me to keep everything inside, and if it was family business, we were allowed to do things, but we weren't allowed to talk about it. The one that talked about it was the one that was wrong. And that was real hard for me, because there were things going on, and I really needed somebody. I needed to share this stuff, and I was told not to. And so for many, many years, if you hear something long enough, it's so ingrained. So when I came to this fellowship, it just wasn't easy to open up at all. And when I was really new, my mother told me, and she's not in recovery, she's not an addict or anything, and she was so afraid that I was going to share our dirty laundry in public that she told me she'd be my sponsor. I thought that was pretty funny, because, you know, she was my sponsor for all those years. You know, she made me do whatever she wanted me to do, and so I got a good chuckle out of that. But so the opening up was never easy for me. There were things going on, and nobody knew, and I thought I was close with women. After, you know, going through that sponsorship group, I thought that I was really getting close, and I just wasn't. But when I moved to Chicago, here I had to start all over again, and I chose a sponsor, but you know, and I always said, well, I'm working 6 and 7 because I'm always picking things that I want to work on, and you know, I choose a thing and I work on it and try to change, and then I'll choose something else. But what I was doing was, I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't writing. I wasn't sharing. I wasn't letting anyone in, because here I moved to this new area, and this woman didn't know me at all. She didn't watch me grow through recovery for my first 5 years, and I didn't want to start over. I was so scared that people wouldn't like me that I just didn't want to let them know who I was. I mean, I was so afraid once you got to know me that you'd just be gone anyway, and because that's the only thing that I knew. And in all actuality, I was the one that always ran. Once I let somebody in a little bit, I was the one that ran. And, you know, especially in relationships with men, my limit was 2 years. Once they got to know me a little bit, I was out of there. I'd start causing all this trouble and just say, well, all we do is fight anyway, so I'm gone. And so I was a runner. And so when I was out in Chicago, I had a sponsor, and I didn't do anything with her. Didn't let her in. Didn't get to know her. But I thought that I was really working the steps because I was working on myself, and that worked for a little while. It worked for a few years actually. And when I got to Michigan, I decided to find a sponsor, because I've never not had a sponsor. I've never stopped going to meetings. I've always been a part of. I've been involved in service. So I thought I was doing all the stuff that I was supposed to be doing, and I thought everything was okay. And so I get to Michigan, and I choose a sponsor that I really thought that I had something in common with. This woman was from California. She had met her husband while she was married, which is what I did. And I mean, that right there was enough to tell me that that's the woman that I want what she's got. And so I went to the sponsorship group, and I tried my hardest to fit in with these women, but they had formed this clique thing that I couldn't be a part of. I tried to be something I wasn't. I shared with these women for 3 years, and I tried, and I tried, and I tried. And they just didn't want any part of me. I would reach out, and none of them reached back, and actually now most of them don't even say hi to me anymore. But I also had major trust issues with the sponsor, but I was staying with her. I wasn't moving on, and I don't know why. And she would share stuff with me that other people shared with her in confidence. And so the last thing I was going to do is share stuff with her. And but I don't know why I didn't move on. And one day I actually said something about that issue, and she let me go. She said that she wasn't doing that, and that this relationship wasn't going to work, and let me go. And I didn't know anything else. I was so scared that I asked her to be my sponsor again, and that didn't last. It got to the point where she let me go again, and I felt so abandoned. I felt so empty inside. I didn't know what to do. I knew that this wasn't the right person, but I was so afraid, and there was nobody else. And in reality, I wasn't willing to work the steps with this woman because I didn't trust her, and I also wasn't ready to work the steps again because I was comfortable where I was at, and that just didn't last. I started getting real uncomfortable inside. I never stopped going to meetings, but I wasn't working on me, and I wasn't growing anymore, and I wasn't changing anymore. And God, I don't suggest that for anybody, but I was also afraid to let anybody in again, still with those abandonment issues. And so I was getting ready to ask this woman to be my sponsor for a third time, and I went to World out in Atlanta this past year, and she told me to go to World and just see what happens and just pray on it. And so I went to World, and I ran into somebody that I've known for, I don't know her real well, but she's somebody that's from Minnesota that my husband knew, and she lives in Hawaii now, and I asked her to be my sponsor. A couple months later, we started talking on the phone, and all of a sudden, as soon as I asked this woman, I got the drive back, and I got that excitement back, and I started working out of the Step Working Guide, and it felt so good. What I would do is I'd write on the weekend. My husband would sleep in a little bit and give me time to write for like an hour every weekend, and I really started feeling a part of again. I mean, I started feeling like I knew why I was here, and that I was doing something, and it was all starting to make sense again, because I'll tell you, I was getting so unhappy inside, and I didn't know what it was. I couldn't exactly put my finger on it, and I would tell people, and they'd ask me, what are you doing? And I didn't want to tell them nothing. I didn't want to tell anyone that I wasn't doing anything, that I was just basically there, and I was scared. I've got, 15 years clean, so I'm supposed to be right there, I'm supposed to be, this far along, and so I don't want to tell anybody that I'm not doing well. And you know what? I have to tell people where I'm at, because I could die. This program saved my life. There's no question in my mind that I had 3 weeks to live when I crawled into that treatment center. I know that, there's no doubt, because my liver was failing. I weighed about 94 pounds. I thought I looked good. I thought I had it going on, and I was death. And so for me, I know that if I was to use again, there's no hope for me. And this is the only place that I've ever found hope. But what was happening was, without me using the tools that I've been given, I wasn't losing the hope or the faith, but my life was so on hold, and I was getting really unhappy with myself, and I started filling it with other things, and I started shopping and trying to get that instant gratification, and nothing was working, and all of a sudden I felt like I was fixing. I'd go out and buy something, and I'd feel good, and then the next day I wanted something else. Nothing was working, and Hawaii is 6-hour time difference, and it just, I didn't know what to do, because I kept calling my sponsor, and the time wasn't right. She would be at work, or when I needed her the most, she was still asleep. It's like, okay, what time is it now? When can I call her? And it just, I thought that it could work, and it couldn't. And there was somebody that has been in my life for a while, and I've been wanting to ask her, and she had her own things that she was going through, and it's somebody that I totally respect and totally trust, and so I got in the process of making a decision to ask her to be my sponsor, and what we've been doing is we've been meeting like once a week, and we've been talking on the phone. Actually, for the first time, I ran completely out of cell phone minutes this month because I've been calling, and for the first time since I've been in California, I'm letting someone in, and I'm telling her exactly how I feel right now. And I shared with her about the shopping thing and about the fixing thing, and how I felt like I was using, and that it wasn't working. And she would ask what I'm doing, and I don't want to say that I'm doing nothing. And I had been writing, and I didn't write for about 3 weeks, and I started feeling it again. I started feeling like I wasn't a part of it. I'm of regional service, I'm of area, at meeting service, and I go into the jails, but you know what? That stuff just doesn't, service is wonderful, but it's not everything. Mm-hmm. Service is not going to help me recover service is not, it keeps me clean, but it's just not helping me grow or change or anything like that. And so I'm really happy to say she gave me some direction, and I'm actually taking it. She said, answer one question a night. That's it. And I'm like, you mean every night? She's like, yeah. And I started doing that, and it just makes me feel so good about myself. And I haven't been shopping. I haven't been fixing in those ways. And I'm not saying that I'm not going to, but it's a one day at a time process for me. And I noticed that for a while there, besides the shopping, I was doing other things too. Like I was eating, I was picking my fingers, I couldn't sit still unless I was actually doing something, like either working, not at my desk, but I'm a technician, actually getting out and working on some equipment or riding my motorcycle. The only way that I was not eating or picking or doing something is when I was working out or doing one of those other things. And that was part of the uncomfortability. I just wasn't okay within myself. And once again, I had to learn the basics of this fellowship, the basics of this program. It's in the steps. And it's a really, really good feeling to be back a part of. And I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to share this in a meeting. I haven't shared in a long time. And part of that is because I don't want to tell people where I'm at. And I think that we really need to, because people of all amounts of clean time need to know that people with some clean time are also messed up. Because I'll tell you, if I had worked on everything in my first few years, what would make me think that I need to stick around any longer? I would just think, you know what, I'm perfect now. I can go use. And I know that I can't. And because I use today, I'll be dead tomorrow. And people have shown me that, I had a couple of friends in my area that had 16 years and decided that they could be social users. And I had to watch the process because, they still wanted to hang around with us people in recovery. And for me, I wasn't comfortable with that. I didn't come to recovery to hang out with people that are using. I didn't move to Michigan and use here in Michigan at all. So I don't know anybody that uses, and it's not just the drugs, it's the lifestyle. And if I had kept going on the road that I was going with not working the steps, that lifestyle was going to kick in again too, because it was starting to. I was starting to do all the cons in my head. How can I pull this off? I wasn't doing it, but I was thinking it, and if I think it long enough, eventually I'm going to justify doing those things, and that's what got me to this program. Was all the lies and all the hiding, and I was a closet user. I thought that if I used, if nobody saw what I was actually using, they wouldn't know that I was loaded. And I felt that way in my head. All the stuff that was going on in my head, even though I wasn't acting out on it, it was those secrets again. And so I'm really happy to say that one day at a time, I'm in the process again. It feels so good to be able to say that and mean it. Because you know what, I said everything. I always sounded good. When I was a newcomer, man, I could share up a storm, and people would walk up to me and say, God, I want what you have. And all I was doing was a parrot. I was just repeating what other people said, because I didn't know I had no idea. I just wanted you guys to like me. I just wanted to sound good. Because I was so afraid of people not liking me. You know, I could look around a room and focus on just the one person that doesn't like me instead of all the people that do. I can do that today. And I think that was from not liking myself. And I really have to say that I'm really starting to like myself. And earlier on, I was really in that process, and now I am again. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for these rooms, because I'll tell you, the dope man never asked me how I was doing. And you people really care. You know, I've got some wonderful women in my life that I try to keep in contact with. You know, the internet is a real good outlet for me. When people come to these things, I keep in touch with them, you know, all year. And you know, we travel anywhere, and we've got friends all over the world. And that's something that I mean, when I was going to go traveling, man, I'd have a dope deal lined up. You know, I'd know just where to go to get that dope. And that's how I feel about recovery. Anywhere that I travel a lot for my work, and what I do is I go to meetings wherever I go. On Wednesday, I'm going down to Kentucky again. And I already know people that live down there, and I'm going to go to meetings while I'm there. I'm only going to be there for 2 days. But I think it's a wonderful thing. And when I do go into meetings, I always say that I'm from out of town. Or when I moved to Michigan, I raised my hand and said, you know, I'm Lori, and I'm here, and I just moved here, and I want girlfriends. You know, because it's not about the men for me today. That's real growth for me, because it was all about the men. It was always all about the men, because I knew that I could play them. But I can't play the women in my life. You know, all I can do is be myself. And I used to say, you know what, if they don't like me, they got bad taste. You know, and I just feel really good today. I've been really nervous and thinking that I had nothing to say. You know, why would they even ask me? Because they know I'm complacent. Probably why. No. But I don't know. I really want to thank the committee for asking me to share. This means a lot to me, and I don't know. I'm just really glad to be here, and I'm glad that you guys shared this with me. And I guess I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Apparently there was a little bit of confusion, and the person who I thought was going to be our other speaker isn't here. Is there somebody here who was asked to be the second speaker for this workshop? Okay, then we have a backup. And I'd like to introduce Cliff from Anderson.
I'm Cliff, an addict. Well, I found out 5 minutes ago, and I was joking with our taper, and earlier she's, oh, you cut your hair, wow, you've lost a lot of weight, and they've asked you to speak. I said, not yet, I'm dodging them, and I guess you can run, but you can't hide. And I'm nervous. I'm not real sure what it is. I'm going to say, I would like to say I really appreciate what the addict before me had to share. I really relate to that. I'm a bit of a transplant myself, and I really relate to the idea that wanting to think that, not necessarily that I'm unique, but the people back there were, and that somehow that, you know, the people here, you know, can't help me like the ones did before. Really like to glorify, you know, my recovery and the addicts who helped me, you know, the good old days. Everybody knows the good old days, and you know, and that's a problem I deal with, is that you know, I really want to think that somehow progress hasn't happened in our fellowship, and that things, you know, back when were, you know, better than they are now. And it's just not true. There are a lot of special moments, and they're my special moments, and nobody will ever be able, the first time I realized I wasn't a piece of shit, you only get that once in recovery. But, there are other special times ahead of me. I got clean in Southern California, and wound up in Indiana, and, I did, the basic footwork. I showed up at meetings. I asked somebody to be my sponsor, but I just really going through the motions, and it just really didn't take me long before I got real sick real quick, and and there's a lot to be said for going through the motions. Bring the ass, the mind will follow. But eventually, the mind must follow. I found myself in a really, really strange place. And one of the topics earlier, the sharing clean, living dirty, and I came real close to, relapse. The thing that saves me is the thing that I really think of and really keeps me clean is and the thing that I remember first about my first meeting was, as long as the ties that bind us together are stronger than those that would tear us apart, all will be well. And so most of my recovery, I've really tried to surround myself with everything possible in this fellowship. And thank God for my home group. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, when shit hit the fan and I was unable to care for myself, my home group, was there for me. And and people started calling it and asking where I was. I guess the thing about complacency for me is that man, you just never know, and it's not one of those things you think, well, I'm just going to be complacent for a while. It's something that creeps up, and the thing is that it's going to happen. It's going to happen to me again. It's going to happen to my sponsor again. I'm sure it'll happen to all of you if it hasn't happened already at least once. And so the only thing that I've ever found is is continuing to do the things that have always worked, so that when I do become complacent, maybe I have built enough into this program that it can hold me safe until that complacency passes, and somebody tells me that hey, where have you been? What have you been doing? Thank God for the newcomer. I just can't say enough for listening to what the newcomer has to say. And that's something that I've really, really tried hard to do, is to listen to what the newcomer has to say. And it's not easy, when some fucking newcomer says, how come you weren't at your home group last night? And I had no good reason. Last week I went at my home group, I was just damn tired, didn't want to go. And, and some guy, not even a part of my home group, calls me up and wants to know why I'm not there. And thank God, I didn't say, it's none of your fucking business. I called my sponsor and said it was none of his fucking business. But, those are the type of things that I have really allowed the people in this fellowship, whether I want to hear them or not, to do for me. And swallow a little bit of my pride, and and really not look at the messenger and try and look for the message. So I suppose really, if you find yourself being new and seeing, your sponsor or your sponsor's sponsor or whatever, take a chance and tell them, hey, this concerns me. A couple of years ago, I got a new sponsor because my sponsor stopped going to meetings and stopped doing service and stopped working steps with me. And and I told him, and me and several of the people he sponsored had to jump ship. And it wasn't about abandoning him. it was, more about saving ourselves. And I felt a lot of shame behind it. His wife got loaded, unfortunately he didn't, and they split up. And after it all the smoke cleared, there was, this conversation between us. Man, I love you. Thank you for trying to save me. And it took what it took to get me here back to where I need to be. And I really appreciate it. And and those are the things that really keep me tied into this program. Is we hear it all the time. We are each other's eyes and ears. And those are the things I try and invite people in to give me. Love me back to sanity. That's something we used to hear all the time when I was new. Let us love you until you learn to love yourself. Well, today I need you to love me still. And I invite anybody, to help me in that way. And I just try real hard to take that. Sometimes it's really hard to take. The only other thing I really have to say is that home group. I really think it's a lot of times that stuff gets, kind of brushed over. Yeah, this is my home group, best home group in the world, la-di-da, buy some literature, see you next week. And a lot of times my home group really don't want to listen. And it's just vital today for me to make them listen. I'm having a rough time with my job, with my relationship, with my sponsor, with my step work. We read the basic text in my home group, and I was telling them, man, this is the third time we've been on the fourth step, and I ain't done with mine yet. You guys need to start calling me on this shit, please. Maybe that's the last time I do that, but I finished it. I did the fourth step, and now we're on the second time. I'm on my 10th. They read the 10th step for the second time. They're like, Cliff, are you done with your 10th step? Thank God I didn't have to ask them. It didn't have to get to the third time of the rotation of reading the basic text before they said, Cliff, you've got to get done with this thing. We love you. We need you. Let us love you so you can love us. And and so that's been just an important part that I've continued to allow help me. And the thing is I know I'm going to get complacent. It happens for short periods of time, longer periods of time, and thank God that I've really invited those people before it happened. And that's the key. Before it happens, invite those people in so that that I'm safe. Because as long as the ties that bind us together are stronger than those that would tear us apart, all will be well. And I'll pass.
Before we open the floor for sharing, I need to remind everyone that we are being taped. If you wish not to be taped, please let me know so that the tape can be turned off. I guess we'll open up for comments. Anybody?
Hi family, my name's Denise, not an addict.
Hi Denise.
Complacency. I've been sitting thinking about it, and in my time in recovery, I came in, did what I had to do, got a sponsor, she died, got another sponsor, didn't work out. And through getting healthy and changing, I got a home group. I became involved with H&I, stayed the secretary for a year, stayed the treasurer for my home group for 6 years, kind of took it hostage because it helped keep me clean. And someone said to me in a meeting that you need to step back and you need to let other people in. So I handed it off to my husband. I said, oh, okay, this is what you said I had to do. So I still had my hands in it. It's still my baby, but I wasn't doing it, And he stayed the treasurer for a couple more years. And there was a time where we had to just literally let it go and let someone else step up and take that position and let that meeting go. And as God has it for me in my life, I started college, and this was 5 years ago. And every Tuesday, which was my home group meeting, I had to be in a class. So I could no longer attend the love of my life, my home group, which is the foundation of my recovery. These people love me. They call me on my shit. They hold me when I cry. They hold me down when I want to use. These people are my foundation, honestly, with my higher power. And it was God's way of letting me detach, you know, because now I was in school and I had other things on my agenda where my recovery moved down a notch. School became my higher power in my life. I had to study constantly. I was in class constantly. I still am in class 5 years later. I was out studying this morning outside this building and realizing that I had grown complacency in my recovery. And when I noticed it was I quit journaling. I journaled for my first 7 years non-stop, because if I didn't journal, I couldn't see my growth periods or how I struggled and how I got through it without using. So I always had this reference for me to go back on, you know, that I could look and say, wow, I went through my mom dying and I didn't use, and this is how I got through it. You know, this is what I had to do in case I came upon my dad dying or what have you, not my dog. And I noticed I quit journaling, so that was my first spot in complacency in my recovery for me. I wasn't with my home group, okay? I was doing 1 meeting a week, and let me tell you, that's a squirrely addict at 1 meeting a week. For me, I need 3 to have a nice base, to have a nice smooth, okay, I'm not going to bite your head off, kick your ass, or do anything out there that I wouldn't be okay with, you know? Today I have integrity. I say who I am, and I am who I say I am. And it's only through these steps in my higher power and this program that I have that today. And where I noticed, and I sponsor women, because you know what, they sponsor me. It's not just me giving to them, they give to me, you know. And at times I ask myself, am I a good enough sponsor for you? Can I be there? Because I'm in school, I'm in a very deep subject, and I'm just constantly overwhelmed with school really bad. It is like taking over my brain and my life. But thank God for my higher power, because he still gives me, I still make it to a meeting a week, I still sponsor women, and I still stay involved with the fellowship. No, I don't hold a service position, but I have went into the jails, I have went into the hospitals, I've been a secretary, I clean meetings. I mean, I do what I got to do to stay that involved, to stay clean for me today. And the complacency part was where I quit working on me, you know. I quit going to church because on Sunday mornings I'm studying. I quit writing in my journal because if I'm going to write, I got to do notes for school, you know, and my hand can only write so much. I'm on a computer all day at work, so I don't want to get on the computer and talk in them chat rooms in NA, you know. And then I always make the excuse, my sponsor's very busy. You know, I can't bother her because she's so busy. So I don't make that phone call saying, hey, you know what, my stepdad died and I need some moral support here. I need someone to hold me today, but I don't want to bother her, you know. And it's just lately that I've asked my sponsees, do you want to cut me loose? Because if you do, I understand. I understand that maybe you had needs and I wasn't there to fulfill them because I was over here studying, or I was at the library, I was taking care of this and that for me to get through these classes. You know, when I was 3 years clean, someone sat me down and said, I want you to make a list of things you want to accomplish in your recovery. And it has to be 10 strong. And it has to be in order. It has to be in chronological order of how you want to accomplish them. And I did that. And I'm at the bottom of my list, you know. And I'm like going, once I get my certification from the state of Michigan that I'm a certified coder, my list is complete. With added pluses, only through my God and this program, you know. Marriage wasn't on my list, but somehow it fucking fell in there, okay? I don't know. God had a plan for me, I didn't know. But the complacency part of it came where Denise was getting more turmoil inside, more, I couldn't deal with situations that I used to be able to deal with very, very easily with my higher power's help in a step. And around where I go, Macomb County, I'm known to, I shoot from the hip, you know. I really speak my mind. I'm very forward, I'm very front. There's no phoniness about me. If I don't like you, I don't talk to you. I don't have to play like, hey, how you doing? You know, that's not me. You know, I am very honest, very, very down to earth, and if I don't like you, I'll let you know. I just don't bother with you. But for me, I noticed a change in Denise. And I was on finals, and I was crying, and I was a mess, and my hair's falling out, and this is 2 weeks ago. And I'm praying around the clock, and I'm asking God to help me get that center, get back on my square, just help me get through these finals. I got to do these finals. Mind you, I'm not passing one of my major classes because I had a lot of things go on. And if you're not working your program and things are going on in your life, then you find you're off your square. You know, I had to deal with a death and taking care of an elderly man that was sick, and I had upper respiratory infections. I had my kidneys shut down, and it seemed like God just kept putting things in my life that I needed to deal with, but yet I still needed to study. And I let my study go wayside, and I let my program go wayside, and here I was, one messed up puppy, just trying to get through this stuff, but I hadn't made enough deposits in my spiritual bank to make a withdrawal when I needed it. And I realized that when I went to make that withdrawal, and I was overdrawn, and I had nothing to help me through it, you know. My stepfather died, and I had to bury him, and I had to do a test that day. I had nothing to take out of that bank because I didn't put nothing in it, because I was complacent, because I didn't go to church. Church can wait, you know. I got to study. Even though I studied, I didn't learn, I didn't absorb, and I didn't remember, and I barely passed the class. And God had a message in there for me, you know. When you put school above me and your recovery, because without my recovery, I got nothing. I wouldn't be in college. I wouldn't be where I'm at without my recovery, you know. But somehow, everything that the program blessed me with, and it has blessed me tenfold, I swear to you, all of a sudden it was like I put school before anything, you know. And then maybe after school came my husband, because, you know, there's a higher power there for sure. And then somewhere in there, my God fell away. And it showed. And I felt it. And it showed in me not doing a 10th step every day, you know. I don't lie, cheat, steal, or do any of the things I did when I came in here. But there are other things in life that you can do that are not in compliance with recovery. You know, it don't have to be none of those big ones. It can be little things, but you still know in your heart that they're not right, and they just don't sit well with you. And to get back to not being complacent is where I am today, and that's why I'm up here. I went back to where I started. I had to go full circle in my recovery. I went back to my 3-quarter house that I lived in. I got out every journal from the day I got clean, and I read them. And I read that pain. And I had to remember that pain, because don't think using hasn't went through my mind and all this stress with my hair falling out and finals and not passing and death and blah, 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 and work ain't going so hot. Yeah, using came across my mind. I don't care how long I'm clean. I still have those thoughts when pressure gets so overwhelming. It was like, fuck, I just want to use, you know. I just want to say, fuck all this. Excuse me. And, but I went back to the beginning. I got out the journals and I read, and thank God I had them to do that with. And that put me back to where Denise started. And that's what I was told. When you can't find your square, go back to the beginning and start over. And I did. And I went back to my 3-quarter house. And I went to the Mother Mary in the backyard, where I remember dropping to my knees in the pouring rain, praying and saying, please take this compulsion, obsession to use away from me. I can't do this. And God helped me and removed it. Not totally, but enough to get me through. And I went back to that same statue, and I dropped to my knees, and I said, just let me get through these tests and this stuff in my life without using. And he has, you know. And that was another step of going back to my beginning. I am now doing the 4th step. And, you know, and it's odd because in this 4th step, I'm dealing with rape, molest, incest, these major, major issues that have happened to me I've never wanted to deal with because it was so heavy. It was just so deep, and it was just so scary and dark. I didn't want to write about it, let alone feel it and work through it. God forbid. And, you know, but if I'm going to go back to the beginning, I want to do it right this time. I want to work through this and let it go. I want to be able to sit down and watch a TV program that has that shit in it without going off and crying and getting all emotional about it, because I haven't dealt with it within myself, you know. So that's where God has me. I'm working on a 4th step. I take on new sponsees today. You know, today I know I have something to give them. A few 24 hours ago, I would tell you right out, no, I'm sorry. I have nothing to offer you right now. I'm overdrawn myself, you know. But today I know in my heart I have something to offer. And I know that God didn't keep me clean and give me the strength to come up here and talk in front of all you people. I haven't done open talk in about a year. I do them regularly because it keeps me in tune with who I am. And I can't keep what I have unless I give it away. And I know that. I know that for a fact. And once I get going, I'm okay. It's just the initial getting up here and saying what I want to say. Complacency in your program puts you back out. Complacency can be in the littlest corner of your recovery. I never, ever stopped going to meetings, never. I never ever stopped going to my home group. I pop in occasionally and just say, hey, if I got to skip a class, I do it. You know, because the love and the warmth, I need that so badly. And it's odd. And I have a Friday night favorite meeting where I see everybody. That's more my social. You know, and we all have them. We all have those meetings where you go and it's more of a social than it is recovery. You know, you sit at the same table, you sit with your friends, and you see the people you never see, and you catch up on life. A little bit of gossip, but you catch up on life. And you know, I had that. I've never lost it, and I never want to lose it. But I'll tell you what, a squirrely addict, for me, I'm not talking about anybody else, but for me, is one that isn't working on herself. Where there's the smallest little defect, as long as I'm trying to change something that is causing me someone else pain, I know that I'm still in recovery and I'm still got a chance. And that's what I found. My complacency had shown up in very many areas of my recovery. Not just me not writing. I bought a journal Thursday. It's my first one in years. Yep, I'm going to start writing again. And it's like I'm on the tail end of school. I've been going for 5 years. I'm one tired addict. I'm tired. And I'm glad to be done, you know. And God has literally carried me through this. And I took on a new sponsee. I'm putting together a relapse recovery journal. It's really cool. And there's just little things that I'm doing for Denise today. I'm going back to church. I'm going to start going where I can make those spiritual deposits. When shit happens in my life, I can actually make a withdrawal and maybe make it through it this time without pulling my hair out or losing my hair or killing somebody. Because that too, you know, when I'm stressed in my recovery, I'll lash out. You know, and unfortunately my husband's the closest one to me, so I like lash out. And that's not good for the relationship. 2 addicts together is hard enough, you know. One squirrely addict and one normal addict really is hard, you know. So I thank you, and I just want to say that complacency will sneak up on you and put you back out and you won't even know what's happening. And you can still be attending meetings. You can still be sponsoring women. You can still be going into hospitals, institutions, and speaking like I am today. That doesn't mean I don't have complacency in my life. I did. I just didn't see it. I just knew that school was my God, and I had to get through it because without school, you know, I can't make that big money. And without big money, I can't have those big toys and blah, blah, blah. And I don't have none of that if I don't have me in recovery.
Hi guys, I'm an addict. My name's Mark.
Hi, Mark.
I guess I wonder, you know, what I ain't never heard nobody say what identifies an old timer. I guess when do you reach that point? I don't really know. You know, I've seen people with shit in the treatment center still, man, have as much wisdom as. Or have a message better than somebody that's sitting there with 30 years. And maybe that's what complacency is. You guys taught me tolerance and love. And when I'm complacent, that's the first thing that goes. Self-will takes over. I'm listening to like what everybody's talking about this morning, and what I'm hearing is the basics, you know. Where were we when we crawled in here and said, please help me? I don't know about a desire to stop using, okay? I just know that what I'm doing ain't working no more, and maybe I'm ready to try something else. And y'all love me, man, and you said, keep coming back. And I did. Although I didn't do it the way you told me to, because I wasn't that bad yet. But I never relapsed as far as the drugs went. I'm one of those lucky people that came in once, and I'm just lucky that way so far. The basics. I belong to a home group. My home group is called the Second Chances Group. It's located in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. We meet Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. If I'm in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, on Thursday night at 7 o'clock, I'm at that group. I believe very, very deeply in a home group, because I'm not somebody that just automatically lets you into my life. I need to come to the same place. Because I too travel a lot. I'm blessed in that way. And I meet a lot of people. And there's a lot of people in my life. And wherever I go, I mean, I go places now, I've been around long enough. How do you get longevity? How do you get clean time? Don't use, keep coming back. How do you get, I was at somewhere, man, this dude was speaking, and he had like 42 years, and people were in awe. And they went up to the guy, and I was standing there, you know, getting ready to kick it with them. And how do you get 42 years? He says, shit, just live that long and don't use, man. You know? And I'm waiting to hear some like magical shit, you know? Live that long and don't use. How do I live, man? I have to learn to live. Where do I learn? See, everything I knew about living damn near killed my ass. But what happens when I get complacent is I forgot what you guys taught me, and I start thinking that I'm getting all right now, man, and there's like things happening in my life. See, I got this like higher power thing that I never had. I have faith. Thank you, N.A. Thank you, N.A. And I will throw that shit out the window in a minute, man, and start thinking that I know what to do. And when I know what to do, I don't pick up my books in the morning. I forget to pray. I forget to call people. I went, at about 13 years, I went about a year and a half with only 4 meetings. Oh man, was I happening then? I had it on. You know, I had the material things, I had the job, I had the one W-2 form that I was talking about the other day, man, because some of them deposits, I guess, stuck for a while. But my disease manifests itself in violence, anger, and that's what happened. And like Denise was talking, who am I going to lash out with? The one I love, man. And so my complacency didn't lead me to the drugs, but it led to violence. And at that point of that violence, well, a blessing happened, because my wife got into recovery, and she's been there ever since. And that's the blessing. The other blessing is I didn't go to jail. I guess that's a blessing. Although, you know, that shit don't scare me. I ain't scared. I ain't scared. You know, what the fuck, jail, so what? This shit tells me. Jails, institutions, and death. I believe that. See, I believe today. I believe what Narcotics Anonymous tells me. And what happened after that whole scene was I basically switched fellowships. That's what happened to me. I was in a rural area, and there wasn't a lot of Narcotics Anonymous. And, I mean, there just wasn't. There just wasn't. And there isn't a lot today. I mean, you guys, I hear you guys talking about meetings, you know, like 7 nights a week, all different times. We got 5 meetings, man. 2 of them. One is on the street. The rest are all in treatment centers. We don't have H&I. But I don't care about that. See, I can't start comparing what I got to what you got. Because now, oh man, you got that, I don't, what's up? You know, sometimes I too look at my recovery and think maybe I'm supposed to be somewhere else than I really am. But then I got to get back to, how is my now? How is my now? Why am I feeling like that? What haven't I done? Complacency is a killer. I love talking about the newcomer being important, but I'll tell you what, people with clean time, when they're in pain, they got to realize, man, that it's okay to share that pain, and it's okay to, don't put me on no goddamn pedestal, okay? God knows I put myself there enough from time to time, you know. But when I gotta get my ass right down and say, look, man, I don't know what to do today.
I don't know what to do. Please, God, help me. And I need to know. That's why for me a home group is so important. I need to know that I can walk in that room. And I don't want to scare nobody out, man. I don't want somebody to say, oh my God, what happens when I get like that? And I should be better than that. I got to be ready to do whatever it takes at any time. And I gotta, you know, it's funny, you know, yeah, service to NA. I believe the old writing, service to NA is not NA. I believe that with all my heart, man. Because look at a bunch of dope fiends sitting in a room. I got emotion. Really? Well, I'll counter your motion. Oh, wow, man, we're doing something now, ain't we? Yes, we are, man. We're a bunch of damn addicts. Talking about recovery and shit. Gonna fly all over the damn country, spending money all over the damn place, man. It's some poor dope fiend, man, just put a crumbled up dollar in the basket just trying to pass the message, man. You know, because I got to be part of, man, so I got to put my dollar in. We got to be careful with our NA money, man. If people ain't stepping up to service and money's disappearing, then somebody needs to step up and let's forget the goddamn political correctness and say, hey, you know what, man? You ain't handling the money for the area activities no more, because the last time you handled the shit, $500 went away and you talked about these amends and you ain't made them yet. We got to do that, man. We got to, because I cannot survive without NA. I can't. I'm not to the point where I can go back into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous because the NA meetings all went away, man. And maybe some other people can. And if you can work both, God bless you in your road to recovery. God bless you, as long as you're doing something different than what you were doing. But I need Narcotics Anonymous. And I need to come and I need to come to these places, and I need to hear that people do what I do and come through it okay. And I don't know, man. I'm just loving you guys. Thanks a lot.
I'm Kim, and I'm an addict.
Hi, Kim.
Hey, Kim.
And I want to thank Denise for sharing. You know, I hear it said a lot that, you know, we'll read the basic text, and of course we're sure that they were following us around, writing our story, because, you know. But when you were sharing, Denise, it was, you were talking about me. You might have been talking about you, but you're talking about me, and I was just sitting over here going, wow. You know, when complacency, I had to come to this workshop because every year that I come to Camp Mac, I learn something, and this year is a hard lesson to learn because I had to put my ego over here, and I had to get back to basics, and I had to get honest, and I had to share when it was uncomfortable. You know, it's real easy to come in here and share when life's good and you got all these spiritual principles and you're sharing about them, and you know, and then when your life sucks and you're hurting and you don't want to sound bad, you don't want to look bad, you're only going to kill yourself doing that. You're not going to save anybody. But I had to share yesterday, and it was hard, and I was grateful there were certain people here when I shared, and only 2 meetings a month is very dangerous, you know. I used to be real passionate for my home group. There used to be a lot of love and concern and family at my home group, and it shrank and it changed, and this particular addict I like adventure, I like fun, I like spontaneity, but I don't like change, and that might not sound right, but that's the way it is. And there's a lot of people who aren't there anymore, and a lot of new people, and that's good, but it's not the same. But I guess I can't worry about, from what I've heard over this weekend so far, I can't worry about this stuff. I have to take care of this stuff. And if I take care of this stuff will be perceived differently. And that's what I'm working on. That's what I'm working on. You know, I too go to school, and I have a husband, and I have a son, and I have a job, and I have a house. It goes on and on and on, you know, and I put recovery last. Because I was fine, you know, I liked what Cliff shared. I was fine. I didn't need to go to a meeting, I was tired. Or I didn't need to go to a meeting because I had to do the laundry. And I didn't need to go to a meeting because I had to study. You know, and yeah, right paper. Oh yeah, okay, right paper. So it's all excuses. You know, I used to get up every morning and read the Just for Today. I cannot tell you the last time I read the Just for Today unless it was read as a meditation in a meeting. You know, it used to sit right on the back of the toilet. I'm sure we all have those Just for Days. And I used to read it every day. Couldn't tell you. It's probably got it 2-3 inches of dust on it. You know. And then I complained yesterday that where's my passion? My passion is my complacency with this program. I haven't journaled. I only read the basic text when I go to a text study meeting. I probably haven't picked up a pen and written any type of step work in months because I've been too busy writing things for school. You know, and I do discuss recovery with sponsees, with my husband, with some women online, but that's not enough, you know. The basic text doesn't tell me to chat with some people online and chat with some people every now and then. You know, it says you're supposed to go to meetings, you're supposed to work steps, and you're supposed to talk to your sponsor. I have a sponsor, but I guess this is, you know, my Get Honest weekend. I probably need to find a different sponsor because I don't have the passion to call her anymore, you know. And she's a sweetheart. I love her to pieces, but it's not, you know, and I don't want to make it her. It's not her fault. This is me. And I heard it said here that if you need to find a different sponsor, you need to do it for yourself. And again, change. You know, she knows me. She knows a lot about me, and there's things she can call me on because she knows. And to think that I have to share this with somebody else on this deep, intimate level again, and allow somebody else to get in there and to be able to call me on things, you know, it's change. You know, and an addict told me yesterday, I'm probably going to quote it wrong, but that knowledge does not mean application. And that was very powerful for me to hear yesterday because, well, I know all the stuff and I can spew the stuff and I can talk good and blah, blah, but if I'm not applying it in my life today, what good does it do me to know any of it if I'm not using it? And I'm grateful that all of you are here and that all of you, in whether it is a small way or a large way, have contributed to kicking my ass all weekend long.
Say that.
And I'm grateful for it because I needed it. And I'm grateful to be here. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Joe. I'm an addict. Oh, okay. Well, it's not on the topic.
So Joe, if it's not on the topic,
Yeah.
then let's wait
Okay.
till after we're done then.
Okay, well, there's someone here that just got brought here from South Bend, who made some calls, went to a meeting yesterday and made some calls, and,
Joe, if it's not on the topic, let's wait.
okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Pamela. My name's Lisa. just thinking about a different type of complacency, being a person at adequate time, in meetings, and it's interesting, and I know I'm so terminally unique that this only happens to me, that there are things going on in meetings and it's not promoting the atmosphere of recovery, and I say, well, it's just their stuff, and it's not my responsibility, and it's not my issue. But as a member of a home group, as a member of an area service committee, as a member of Narcotics Anonymous as a whole, there are sometimes some things that we just let shit fly. You know what I mean? And that's all I can call it, is because sometimes it's just shit, and I had an experience yesterday where just some things, I'm really, it says we ought never be organized, but we have a format, which implies some form of organization and that kind of stuff. And I know that it hurts the newcomer when I don't do my part to help promote the atmosphere of recovery, And I was really just distraught yesterday about something that went on in a meeting. I have my own personal grievances and soapbox stuff with, people holding meetings hostage. And someone with a lot more time than me said something that made a whole lot of sense. He said, if you're sharing more than 3 to 5 minutes, then you're probably not talking to your sponsor. And I was like, damn, it make a lot of sense to me, so now we share less than 5 minutes, of course, if you're going through something, sometimes we are going through something, and that means I need to share a little bit, and then I need to ask, can you meet me after the meeting? You know what I mean? Complacency means that I start, it says the enemy of adequate time is what? Complacency and apathy. Just stop giving a care. Get complacent just the way things are. This is just the way it is. And when I came in, it wasn't that way. People were being quiet. We were talking about that shut up and listen topic. Denise, I think you should have done that. You would have been perfect. But just anyway, people would say, how are you going to hear the message you need to hear? How can you hear about staying clean if you're always talking? And I would hear that and think, They used to say, you got one mouth and 2 ears, stick cotton in your mouth, that kind of stuff. Or they say, look, if you want to use, tell us. Everything else, share with your sponsor. You know what I mean? In a meeting, not, of course not with everybody. But you know what I mean? If you want to use, because you don't want the newcomer is the most important person. And the newcomer has to say, I feel like using dope today. Please, by all God's means, tell us. Don't walk leaving the meeting the same way you come in. And then we, as people with time, I, as a person with time, let me stick about me, I, as a person with time, sometimes just allow the strangest shit to go on. And I was so teed off yesterday, and I was talking with Kim and Sarah, and we were like, oh, this addict just went on a tangent for like 25 minutes, and and he wasn't the speaker, and I was just in arms, But I get comfortable with just letting things ride. I get comfortable with sitting in the meeting and just saying, oh, okay, it's just who they are. It's the way it is. And I'm not the chairperson, but I'm still an addict in recovery. And I'm still someone who needs to promote the atmosphere of recovery, because there's a newcomer in here that might die today, And sometimes there's an old timer in here that might die today. And maybe they need to share within that 5 or 25 minutes, somewhere in there, so that everybody gets a chance. Because I learned real early in recovery that I need every addict. I even need that addict that's holding the meeting hostage, but I just need them in a little smaller dose.
My name's Jonathan. I'm an addict. I'm not going to talk too much. I really wanted to make one little point. I'm not an old timer, at least in my definition, whatever that is. But early on in recovery, I was told to pray, and I didn't know how to, and I started by saying words out loud, and eventually I was able to pray without saying the words out loud. But I met some people who were old timers, and I saw an addict go back out. I saw an addict relapse. And I said, in my prayers, I said, God, keep me instilled with the passion I have now, that doesn't happen to me. And so for a long time I prayed for that passion, and I still pray for that passion, because that's what got me clean. That's what's going to keep me clean. And yes, I love service. I am a service junkie, and you know what? I use service. I did use service to keep me clean up till now. I'm adjusting that from to a program of recovery with service as opposed to service with recovery. But I'm telling you, I had to pray for that passion, because that passion is what saved my life. And you know, we're looking for solution, and the solution to complacency is passion, and the tool to get that passion for me came from prayer. And that's all I have to say.
I'm an addict. My name's Jamie. I am exactly where Lori is. You know, that whole principle of going back to where I started. I've lost that kind of that loving feeling, you know, where you go to meetings and everything feels good, and you know, and I thought about using, because I thought, well, I can go back to where I came from, you know. And the real truth of it is that I have friends in this program who went back to try to do that, and it wasn't the same, and it will never be the same. I can't ride pink clouds of newcomerness when I've been here for 7 years. You know, it's just not going to happen. And that's where I have problems with the change, you know, because I'm trying to find what was there and bring it into what is now, and am not being fulfilled. And so what I have to do now is call my sponsor and say, okay, here I am, and I'm empty, and I'm sad, and I'm lonely, and I've got all these things to figure out, and I don't know how to do it. What do I do? And go to tables and say I'm not okay, and fine is fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. You know, so if I'm fine, you know, I'm not okay. You know, and to recognize that it's okay that I still today, 7 years later, don't want to die. You know, and I'm having those thoughts of, if I just turn the wheel 2 inches, I'll hit the wall and it'll be over. You know, and if I don't share those thoughts, I'll do it. You know, my thoughts are thoughts. If I don't put them into action, then they're just thoughts. But if I don't share them, they'll be actions. You know, and that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of those 2 seconds where I might decide to pick up, and it might not just be drugs. You know, where it might be, you know, something that I do to hurt someone else. You know, and that scares me the most. You know, what scares me the most is that, not that you would find out that I have a problem, is that you wouldn't. I mean, my husband OD'd almost 2 years now in January, and he did it because he wouldn't let anybody know. He didn't want anybody to know. And if you don't know what's wrong with me, I'm going to die. You know, and this program has become very life and death for me, and very important. And I share that same thing. Get with your fucking sponsor. I don't want to hear about it for 4 fucking hours. I'm sorry. I want to get with you after. You can come to the coffee house with me. I also have a problem with not staying on the topic of what we're doing. you know, how am I going to learn how to work the step if we're not talking about the steps, you know? And I'm just grateful that I have met 5 people here who are in exactly the same place I am right now. And I know, once again, I'm not alone. Thanks.
Well, I just want to thank everybody for coming. You know, I chose to chair this topic for a very specific reason. I come in and somebody asked me, well, you know, do you want to do a workshop? Chair. I'm like, okay, tell me what you got. And they started reading off the list and thought, yeah, okay, I like that one. Okay, I like that one. And they got to this one. I'm like, yeah. Because, you know, I've been in Narcotics Anonymous for a while. And I've let complacency take me to places that I don't want to go. Not just places that I don't want to go, but back to using. You know, and I don't consider myself to be an old timer because I don't have the time. But I've been around a lot longer than some old timers have. And I still have the same things that I hear a lot of people with a number of years talk about, you know, being bored. Man, you know, I've heard this so many times from so many people, and I've seen so many faces come in and out of this program and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, I really needed this. I think I've been to my home group like 3 times last year. And that's not my normal standard. You know, I went to the same home group. If I was clean, I went to the same meeting every week for a very long number of years. You know, and I was almost always there. If I wasn't there, I was out of town. And it's not, this year hasn't been it. You know, it's been a lot different. And I see myself going back to ways that, places I've been before, and it's like a train wreck that you can't turn away from. You know, I know it's happening, but I can't not do it right now. So I really needed this. I'd like to thank everybody. We got about, no we don't, it's just about 5 minutes over now, okay. So, let's end this with a group hug and a serenity prayer.